He held the check like it was a receipt for something small. $500,000. Marjorie Vale had written the number in blue ink, neat and cold, across a private bank check with his full name on the line. Nathan Cole. She pushed it across the marble coffee table with 2 fingers. "Take it," she said. "Leave my daughter alone. Leave her company alone. Leave this family before you embarrass us any further." Nathan looked at the check. Then he looked at the woman sitting across from him in a cream silk suit that probably cost more than his truck. His work jacket still smelled faintly of sawdust and machine oil. His boots had left a tiny mark on the polished floor, and Marjorie's eyes had followed that mark the moment he entered her house. In the doorway behind them, her daughter Claire stood frozen. Claire Vale, interim CEO of Vale Medical Systems, the woman Nathan had come to love quietly, honestly, and without asking for anything. Marjorie did not look back at her daughter. She only smiled at Nathan, the way wealthy people smile when they believe kindness and control are the same thing. "You are a janitor with a child," she said softly. "Claire is under pressure. She is confused. She thinks ordinary suffering makes ordinary men noble. It does not." Nathan did not answer. Marjorie leaned forward. "Your daughter is 8, isn't she, Emma? This money could change her life. School, a house, medical insurance. You could stop pretending pride is a plan." Nathan's face did not change. Claire's breath caught in her throat. Marjorie thought she was buying away a poor man. She did not know he had already bought 31% of her company. She did not know that the man she called a janitor had spent the last 9 months tracing missing hospital contracts, false vendor invoices, and a fraud network that ended at her own desk. She did not know that by writing his name on that check. She had just connected herself to the one person in the room who knew exactly where every dollar had gone. Nathan picked up the check. He studied it under the chandelier as if he were checking the texture of the paper. Then he stood, walked to the fireplace, and placed it gently on the mantel beside a framed photograph of Claire's late father. "I won't cash it," he said. His voice was low, calm. "But you should remember writing it." Marjorie's smile thinned. Nathan walked past Claire without touching her. He paused just long enough to meet her eyes. There was no accusation in his face, only sadness. Then he opened the front door and stepped into the cold November dark. 3 weeks earlier, at 5:42 in the morning, Nathan Cole was kneeling under a broken boiler in the basement of a small community clinic in Eastbridge, Connecticut. The clinic sat between a laundromat and a bakery on a street where the sidewalks cracked in the winter and the maple trees turned gold in October. Nathan had one hand inside the boiler casing and a small flashlight clenched between his teeth. A metal panel leaned against his knee. His gray hoodie was already streaked with dust. Behind him, sitting cross-legged on a folded towel, Emma Cole was eating cereal out of a plastic container and reading a library book about sea turtles. She had brown curls that never stayed brushed, a pink backpack almost as large as her body, and the serious expression of a child who had learned too early when adults were worried. "Dad," she said. Nathan pulled the flashlight from his mouth. "Yes. Bug? If the boiler explodes, do we still have to go to school?" "The boiler is not going to explode." "But if it does?" "If it does, school will probably understand." Emma nodded, satisfied by the logic. Nathan smiled down at the pipes and tightened a valve. The boiler groaned once, shuddered, and then the old building filled with the soft, uneven warmth of a machine deciding to live one more day. A nurse on the first floor cheered. Nathan sat back on his heels and wiped his forehead with his sleeve. Emma closed her book. "Can we get pancakes?" "It is Tuesday." "That is not an answer." "It is an expensive answer." She tilted her head. "One pancake?" He looked at her, then at the old watch on his wrist. "One pancake," he said. By 7:05, they were sitting in a diner 2 blocks from the clinic. Emma had one pancake shaped roughly like a moon, and Nathan had black coffee, and the corner of her toast she refused to eat because it had too much crust personality. At 7:31, a woman in a navy coat walked in carrying a leather folder and a phone that would not stop buzzing. Claire Vale looked out of place in the diner, not because she was dressed expensively, but because she seemed surprised to find herself somewhere no one expected anything from her. The waitress called her Honey and pointed her to the last open booth. That booth was beside Nathan and Emma. Claire sat down, opened the folder, and tried not to look exhausted. Her phone buzzed again. She silenced it. Then it buzzed again. Emma watched her with interest. "Your phone is mad," Emma said. Claire looked up, startled. Then she laughed for the first time that morning. "I think it is. My dad says machines only yell when people don't listen early enough." Claire glanced at Nathan. He lifted his coffee. "I stand by that." Her smile stayed for a moment. Then a stack of papers slid out of her folder and scattered across the floor. Nathan bent to help at the same time Claire did. Their hands touched over a page of financial numbers. For 1 second, Nathan's eyes moved across the document. Not long. Just long enough. "Sorry," Claire said, gathering the pages quickly. "Work disaster." Nathan handed her the last sheet. "Looks more like a pattern than a disaster." Claire froze. Most people would have said nothing. Most people would not have noticed that 3 vendor lines repeated in different months under slightly altered names. She looked at him more carefully. His hoodie was old. His hands were rough. There was a fresh scratch along one knuckle. A name patch on his jacket read, "Coal Maintenance." "What do you mean?" she asked. Nathan looked at Emma. Emma was building a syrup river around her pancake. He handed the page back. "Probably nothing," he said. "But if a clinic vendor shows up under 3 names and the payments rise every quarter, someone is either very bad at filing or very good at hiding." Claire stared at him. Her phone buzzed again. This time she did not look at it. That was the first morning. The second came 2 days later, when the clinic's elevator stopped between floors with Claire inside it. She had come to Eastbridge because Vale Medical Systems funded the clinic, and because the company's public relations team had told her it would be good to be photographed near patients after a week of bad press. Nathan was changing a light fixture in the hallway when the elevator alarm rang. Everyone panicked politely. Nathan did not. He opened the service panel, spoke to Claire through the metal door, and asked her 3 questions in a voice so steady she later remembered it better than the rescue itself. "Are you hurt?" "No." "Can you breathe normally?" "Yes." "Are you scared?" A pause. "Yes." "Then keep talking to me." She did. She talked about the clinic, about the company, about how her father had built Vale Medical Systems to supply rural hospitals with affordable devices, not to become a chessboard for private investors. Nathan listened while he worked. When the elevator finally lowered and the doors opened, Claire stepped out pale but smiling. Emma, who had been waiting after school in the clinic office, handed Claire a sticker shaped like a gold star. "For surviving," Emma said. Claire pressed the sticker to her phone case. That was the second morning. By the fifth, Claire had learned that Nathan repaired half the things the clinic could not afford to replace. He fixed boilers, locks, cabinets, wheelchairs, and the ancient coffee machine in the nurse's break room. By the seventh, Emma had asked if Miss Claire could come to her school art night because her dad was terrible at understanding abstract feelings in paint. By the 10th, Claire was sitting in a folding chair in an elementary school cafeteria while Emma explained a painting of a lighthouse and a small boat. "That boat is me," Emma said. "The lighthouse is Dad." Claire looked at Nathan. He looked away first. That night, after Emma fell asleep, Nathan went into the small garage behind his rented house. He moved a tool cabinet away from the back wall, pressed 2 fingers under a hidden latch, and opened a narrow door no visitor had ever noticed. Behind it was not a wood shop. It was an office. 3 monitors, a secure phone, locked file drawers, a wall map with red pins marking clinics, hospitals, supply centers, and corporate subsidiaries across 6 states. On the center monitor, a file waited open. Vale Medical Systems, Procurement, Irregularity, Report. Nathan sat down. The man the clinic knew as a maintenance worker read through 70 pages of forensic accounting notes without moving his face. Then he opened another file. Argent Harbor Partners, Accumulation Strategy. He checked the latest position. 26%. Not enough yet, but close. Vale Medical Systems had been created by Claire's father, Arthur Vale, a quiet engineer who believed small hospitals deserved equipment that worked even when no cameras were watching. For 30 years, Vale made monitoring devices, surgical carts, mobile imaging units, and emergency supply kits for clinics that were always underfunded and always full. Arthur had died 18 months earlier. Claire had taken over as interim CEO because the board could not agree on anyone else, and because Marjorie Vale, Arthur's widow, had insisted her daughter needed a chance to mature into the role. But Marjorie had never truly given Claire control. She kept her board seat. She kept the family voting trust. She kept the old allies Arthur had tolerated but never fully trusted. And she kept Daniel Cross. Daniel Cross was Vale Medical's general counsel, a silver-haired attorney with perfect posture and the gentle voice of a man who could ruin someone's life while asking if they wanted coffee. He had known Marjorie for 25 years. He called Claire young lady in meetings, though she was 36 and responsible for nearly 3,000 employees. The first time Nathan saw him, Daniel was standing at the head of Vale's glass boardroom, explaining why the company needed to accept a merger proposal from North Star Health Holdings. North Star was larger, richer, more aggressive. The offer looked generous on paper. Too generous. Claire sat at the head of the table with a pen in her hand and a headache behind her eyes. Marjorie sat to her left, wearing pearls and the serene expression of a woman watching a daughter struggle through a performance she had never believed in. "The market is changing," Daniel said. "North Star offers stability, scale, and protection from activist pressure." Claire looked down at the report. "There are supplier write-offs in here I don't understand." Daniel smiled. "We can walk you through those offline." "I would prefer to walk through them now." Marjorie sighed softly. "Claire, darling, not every small accounting detail belongs in a strategic discussion. Claire held her pen very still. These are not small details. The Riverbend Clinic invoices increased 42% in 9 months. Daniel's smile did not move. Rural supply costs fluctuate. From the far end of the table, a director named Priya Shah looked down at her notebook. She tapped her pen twice. Claire noticed. She also noticed that Daniel noticed her noticing. After the meeting, Marjorie caught Claire near the elevator. "You're tired," she said. "I am asking questions. You are making yourself look uncertain." Claire turned. "Those are not the same thing." Marjorie smiled with pity. "They often are to men who vote." That evening, Claire drove to Eastbridge instead of going home. She found Nathan behind the clinic, repairing the wooden ramp near the service entrance. Emma sat nearby with colored pencils, drawing a dragon wearing glasses. Claire watched him for a minute before he saw her. "You look like someone who has been told to stop asking questions," he said. She laughed once, not because it was funny. "Do I?" "Yes." He set down the drill. Claire walked closer and handed him a folder. "I shouldn't show you this." "Then don't." She held it out anyway. Nathan did not take it immediately. "Claire, I know what you're going to say." "No, you don't." She looked at him. He spoke gently. "If you ask me to look, I will look. But once I look, I will not pretend I didn't see what I saw." She did not lower the folder. "Look." He took it. They sat on the back steps of the clinic while the light faded. Nathan turned pages slowly. Emma hummed to herself nearby. After 10 minutes, he stopped on one sheet. "There," he said. Claire leaned closer. North Star's acquisition model assumes a debt transfer that is not disclosed in the board summary. If the vote passes, your family voting trust gets preferred protection, your common shares get diluted, employees lose severance protection, clinics lose long-term pricing contracts, and someone gets paid before the company realizes what it has sold. Claire stared at the page. "How do you know that from one appendix?" Nathan looked at her. "I used to read contracts." "Used to?" He closed the folder. "I used to read many things." She waited. He did not continue. Most women in Claire's world would have pressed. They would have asked for a resume, a school, a title, a reason. Claire only took the folder back and said, "Thank you." Nathan nodded. Emma looked up from her dragon. "Are we still getting tacos?" Claire blinked. Nathan looked at Emma. "That was not part of the plan." "It was emotionally implied." Claire laughed. Nathan tried not to, and failed. They got tacos. For 2 weeks. Claire and Nathan existed in the strange, quiet space between two lives. By day, Claire stood in boardrooms and fought to slow a merger she did not trust. By evening, she sat on Nathan's front porch while Emma explained second-grade social politics with the seriousness of a Senate hearing. Marjorie heard about Nathan from a board member's wife who had seen Claire at a school art night. That was enough. The Vail Foundation Gala was held every November in Hartford at a museum with stone columns and a staircase built for people who wanted to be seen entering rooms. Claire invited Nathan because she was tired of hiding the one part of her life that felt real. Nathan said yes because Emma told him that Miss Claire should not have to go to fancy boring places alone. He wore a black suit he had not worn in years. It fit too well to be borrowed, though no one at the gala noticed. They noticed his hands. Rough, scarred, workman's hands. Marjorie noticed first. She greeted him in the receiving line with a smile sharp enough to cut ribbon. "So this is Mr. Cole," she said loudly enough for 3 donors and 2 board members to hear. "Claire has always had a generous heart for the working class." The people around her smiled politely. Nathan inclined his head. "Mrs. Vale." A young North Star executive named Preston Malloy stepped forward with a champagne glass. "Maintenance, right?" he said. "That must be grounding. I keep telling my team we need more exposure to real America." Nathan did not answer. Preston laughed and looked around for approval. The approval came. Then Preston turned too quickly, and champagne spilled across Nathan's jacket. "Oh," he said, "I am so sorry. These events are impossible when one isn't used to the movement." Claire's face flushed. She opened her mouth. Nathan touched her hand lightly, not to stop her, to tell her she did not need to bleed for him in a room that wanted blood. He took a napkin from a waiter, blotted his jacket, and looked past Preston toward a painting on the wall. "Eakin's copy," Nathan said quietly. Preston blinked. Nathan looked at the label. The label says private school. It isn't. The hands are wrong. Eakin's painted tension in hands. Whoever copied this painted gloves. The nearby museum director turned around. His eyes narrowed. "Who told you that?" Nathan shrugged. "No one." For the first time that evening, Marjorie's smile faltered. Only a little. But Claire saw it. So did Daniel Cross. The next morning, Claire woke to 23 missed calls. Vale Medical was down 14% in pre-market trading. An unknown investment group had disclosed a large position. Financial press called it an activist threat. Daniel Cross called an emergency board meeting. Marjorie called it proof that North Star was the only shield left. Claire drove to headquarters with both hands tight on the wheel. At 8:15, the boardroom filled. At 8:29, Marjorie took the chair before Claire arrived. At 8:31, Claire walked in and did not move her mother's purse from the head of the table. She sat on the side instead. Daniel began immediately. "We must act today. North Star is prepared to finalize. If we delay, this unknown fund will dictate terms." Claire opened her folder. "We still have not explained the vendor anomalies." Daniel's voice softened. "Claire, the company is under attack. This is not the morning for personal theories." "Financial controls are not personal theories." Marjorie folded her hands. "You are becoming emotional." Claire looked at her mother. "No, I am becoming accurate." A silence. Priya Shah lifted her eyes from her notepad. Daniel moved on as if Claire had not spoken. "The vote should be scheduled within 72 hours. Marjorie nodded. "We agree." Claire looked around the room. Most directors looked away. Not because they believed Daniel, because they were afraid of being wrong publicly. That afternoon, Marjorie invited Nathan to dinner. Not Claire. Nathan. Claire found out because Nathan told her. He was sitting at his kitchen table, helping Emma glue cardboard stars onto a school project about the solar system. "My mother invited you alone?" Claire asked. Nathan pressed one cardboard star flat. "Yes. She wants to scare you." "I know. She wants to humiliate you." "I know. Then why go?" Nathan looked at Emma. Emma was concentrating on Saturn. Then he looked back at Claire. because sometimes people need to say what they truly mean before they understand what they've done. Claire wanted to argue. She did not. At 7 o'clock that evening, Nathan parked his old truck beside Marjorie Vale's stone mansion. The house looked like inherited power. Tall windows, white columns, iron lamps glowing along the driveway. Marjorie received him in a sitting room full of pale furniture no child had ever been allowed to touch. She did not offer coffee. She offered the check. $500,000. Leave Claire. Leave the company. Disappear quietly. Nathan placed it on the mantel and walked out. Claire followed him only with her eyes. When the door closed, she turned toward her mother. "You didn't just insult him," Claire said. "You insulted the only person who has told me the truth without wanting my chair." Marjorie's expression hardened. "You know nothing about truth." Claire looked at the check on the mantel. "I think I am about to learn." She drove to Nathan's house after midnight. The porch light was on. Emma opened the door in pajamas with cartoon planets on them. "Miss Claire," she whispered. "Dad said you might come." Claire knelt and hugged her. Nathan stood in the hallway behind her, tired and calm. He made tea. Emma fell asleep on the couch under a quilt. Then Nathan led Claire to the garage. He opened the hidden office. This time, he told her everything. Argent Harbor Partners had started 12 years earlier after Nathan's wife died from a preventable device failure in a rural hospital. The company that made the device had hidden maintenance defects to protect its acquisition valuation. Nathan had been a financial engineer then, not a maintenance man. After his wife's death, he built a fund that specialized in medical supply companies, clinic networks, and hospitals where money disappeared before care reached patients. He did not destroy companies. He exposed rot, removed thieves, and protected the people the spreadsheets forgot. "Why work at the clinic?" Claire asked. "Because your father funded Eastbridge," Nathan said, "and because the invoices that looked wrong all pointed back there, I came to fix pipes and listen." "And me?" He looked at her. "I did not plan you." Her eyes filled. He continued. "When I realized who you were, I should have told you, but I needed to know whether you wanted the man fixing the boiler before you met the man who owned the fund." Claire sat down slowly. On the wall, a monitor displayed the current holdings. Argent Harbor, 29.4%. Claire Vale. Personal shares, 3.2%. Priya Shah proxy commitment, 1.1%. Total aligned, 33.7%. Enough to block North Star. Enough to force disclosure. Enough to change everything. "What do you have?" Claire whispered. Nathan opened a drawer and removed a black folder. "Every invoice," he said. "Every wire. Every signature Daniel Cross thought no one would compare." The emergency board meeting began at 9 o'clock the next morning. By 8:45, every seat was filled. Daniel Cross stood beside the projector with the North Star merger deck ready. Marjorie sat at the head of the table, wearing pearls and a navy suit. Claire entered at 8:58. She did not sit. "We are waiting for someone," she said. Daniel looked annoyed. "The agenda does not include outside participants." "It does now." At 9 o'clock, the doors opened. Nathan Cole entered in a charcoal suit. Not expensive in the loud way. Expensive in the silent way. The kind of suit that did not need to impress anyone because it had already been chosen by someone who understood rooms like this too well. 2 attorneys followed him. So did a federal investigator from the Department of Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General. Daniel Cross went pale before anyone said a word. Nathan walked to the far end of the table and placed the black folder down. "My name is Nathan Cole," he said. "I am managing partner of Argent Harbor Partners." No one moved. Between February and last Friday, Argent Harbor acquired 29.4% of Vail Medical Systems. Combined with existing aligned shares and proxy commitments, we control enough voting power to block the North Star transaction and compel immediate review of undisclosed related party payments. Marjorie's lips parted. Claire watched her mother hear the new room forming around her. Daniel stood. "This is highly irregular." Nathan turned his head. "Please sit down. Mr. Cross, your name appears in the first 4 exhibits." Daniel did not sit. He also did not speak again. Nathan opened the folder. The screen changed. A corporate structure appeared. Blue Ridge Clinical Logistics, Harborline Patient Systems, Merit Supply Advisory. 3 vendor names. 3 addresses. 1 mailbox service in Delaware. 1 offshore account. 1 trust beneficiary. Marjorie Vail. Nathan spoke without anger. Over 38 months, Vail Medical Systems paid $42 million to entities that provided no documented services, delivered no medical equipment, and maintained no staff capable of fulfilling the contracts assigned to them. He clicked to the next slide. Invoices, wire transfers, signature authorizations. Approval authority was routed through the Office of General Counsel. Daniel's face shone with sweat. Nathan clicked again. The North Star merger would bury these transactions inside a debt restructuring and dilute Claire Vail's personal equity below 1%. It would also terminate pricing protections for 26 rural clinics, including East Bridge. Priya Shah closed her eyes. She had suspected. Suspicion was lonely until evidence arrived. Nathan placed one final document on the table. And North Star's acquisition bonus schedule includes a success payment to an advisory trust controlled by Marjorie Vail and Daniel Cross. The room went still. Marjorie's hand moved toward her water glass. She missed it. The glass tipped, spilling water across the merger deck. No one reached to clean it. Nathan looked directly at her for the first time. "Last night, you offered me $500,000 to leave your daughter because you believed I was poor enough to buy." His voice remained calm. "But over 3 years, you took $42 million from the company her father built. You took it from employees, from clinics, from patients who waited for equipment you delayed so your numbers could hide." Marjorie's face lost all color. "You do not understand what I protected," she said. Claire finally spoke. "What did you protect, Mother?" Marjorie looked at her. "The family." Claire shook her head. "No, you protected control." The federal investigator stepped forward. Daniel Cross reached for his briefcase. One of Nathan's attorneys quietly blocked his path. No one shouted. No one needed to. Sometimes a life ends not with noise, but with the sudden absence of people willing to pretend. 3 months later, Vail Medical Systems was still standing. The North Star merger was dead. Daniel Cross had resigned before being formally charged, which did not prevent the charges from coming. Marjorie Vail stepped down from the board, surrendered control of the family voting trust, and agreed to restitution terms that would return the diverted funds over time. Claire became permanent CEO by unanimous vote. Priya Shah became chair of the audit committee. Eastbridge Clinic received new monitors, new refrigeration units, and a boiler that no longer sounded like it was bargaining with death every morning. Argent Harbor remained a passive shareholder. Nathan refused a board seat. The press wanted photographs of the mysterious investor who had saved Vale Medical from internal fraud. Nathan gave none. He fixed the clinic's ramp instead. One Saturday in February, Claire arrived at Nathan's house with a paper bag of cinnamon rolls and a scarf Emma had forgotten at her apartment. The kitchen smelled like coffee and pancake batter. Emma stood on a chair at the counter, stirring with both hands. "Miss Claire," she said, "we are making breakfast for responsible adults, but Dad is not allowed to flip the first pancake because last time it looked like Ohio." Nathan glanced over. It was a strong Ohio. It had bubbles in the wrong counties. Claire laughed and set down the bag. After breakfast, Emma went outside to build what she called a snow library. Nathan and Claire stood on the back porch with mugs warming their hands. The morning was quiet. The world had stopped demanding performance from them for at least 1 hour. Claire looked at him. "Why did you keep the check?" Nathan did not pretend not to understand. In his desk drawer, inside the hidden office he rarely opened now, Marjorie's check remained uncashed. $500,000, a price assigned to his absence. "I kept it because I wanted to remember how easy it is for people to mistake silence for emptiness," he said. Claire slid her hand into his. "And because I wanted to remember that you saw me before you knew my name on paper." He looked toward the yard. Emma had placed 3 books in the snow and was explaining something sternly to a stuffed bear. "She saw me first," Nathan said. Claire smiled. "Emma?" He nodded. "She knew I was worth inviting before any of you did." Claire leaned her head against his shoulder. Inside the house, the coffee cooled on the table. Outside, Emma shouted that the snow library needed 2 adults and possibly a lawyer. Nathan laughed. Claire squeezed his hand. For the first time in years, neither of them moved toward a phone, a file, a meeting, or a secret. They stepped down from the porch together. And when Emma ran toward them through the snow, Nathan opened his arms. Not as a billionaire, not as an investor, not as the man who had brought down a boardroom, only as a father. The quiet kind. The kind people underestimate until the truth finally stands up beside him.